Hello, my name is Márcio Carneiro. I'm a professor at the Federal University of Maranhão, North Brazil, and also the coordinator for the university's Media Convergence Laboratory, LabCon, where we work with projects that unite communication and technology. Projects such as the Digital Seed, where we use interactive environments, augmented reality, sensors, and other solutions to encourage young people to preserve the architectural heritage of the city of São Luís, which is facing serious problems due to lack of government attention. Instead of a traditional classroom, we use immersive and playful narratives to present these students to the issue we want to address. One of my main research lines involves the impact of new technologies on the journalistic production process. As a lab, we make use of these solutions and try to imagine new tools and scenarios for its use in media organizations and newsrooms. This work is linked to that effort and addresses one of the most current technology trends, the Internet of Things, or IoT. Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, automated narratives. These are some of the most popular technological trends currently available that have attracted much attention of companies, including communication ones. Nevertheless, it's still not clear what's possible to be done and especially how to integrate these innovations to the process already established. As a communication laboratory, we do not think of technology as an end, but as a means for us to do our work. In addition, we believe that technology is not the sole responsible for the change we have today. This would be a very simplistic view. In our analysis model, we work with the idea of three basic vectors: technological, cultural, and economic. These vectors act together and, depending on the timing, intensity, and location, can guide the entire system, in this case society, to different directions. So, to think about the use of Internet of Things in journalism, we need to consider these three aspects and try to see how they can be integrated into innovative news production methods, new narrative forms, and different business models able to sustain the media industry and, of course, the jobs it generates. In this presentation, I intend to focus on some points. One, to establish a definition of what we call the Internet of Things, IoT. Two, to propose a typology of these elements. And three, finally, to establish a production model that can integrate these and other technologies in a changing scenario. The term Internet of Things, or IoT, it's a look at the possibility of interaction and exchange of information between common objects. When connected to the web, these objects offer new ways of use, turning into digital beings and establishing different forms of insertion in the human communication structures. Lev Menovich, in discussing the difficulties related to the term new media, proposed the basic characteristics of the objects created from the digitalization process, establishing a kind of ontology of entities governed by binary logic. According to the author, these distinctive features included numerical description, modularity, variability, automation, and transcoding. This last feature, transcoding, gives these objects an existence made up of two layers: the cultural, which carries meaning that's interpreted by humans, and the machine, which transforms information into structured data that's understood by computers and arranged in order to allow transmission over networks. Watches, sensors, appliances, and other items, when connected, can potentially offer us real-time information about what's happening around us, even when we are away from the objects themselves. The IoT is the empirical version of transcoding proposed by Menovich, as it reflects the integration between what is produced by and for humans and what is generated by machines connected to these previously existent systems. This work intends to discuss these issues and their impact on journalism, on the premise that the natural consequence of the IoT, Internet of Things, is to take the modern situation of information overload to a new level. This informational situation will be able to generate patterns of news consumption different from those of today, especially given the inclusion of new technological possibilities, the behavioral habits of recent generations, and the almost desperate search by traditional media companies for solutions to address the fragmentation of audience seeking to offer content for different channels other than those they traditionally controlled. Such issues include examples of the three vectors of change we referred to in the beginning: the technological, cultural, and economic. A typology of things. In our proposal, we set 4 basic categories for the entities listed as part of the IoT. First category, sensors. A sensor is a device capable of capturing and eventually archiving information on a particular variable or metric. There are sensors for temperature, humidity, motion, rainfall, and more. There are even multiple sensors able to perform more than one type of monitoring. In all cases, this device obtains data about something dynamic which varies over time, recording the various states or conditions of the monitored object. Second category, beacons. When connectivity is added to a sensor, it becomes a beacon, capable of remotely transmitting the data being collected and integrating communication networks. An example of a beacon might be a traffic monitoring camera connected to the public agents that controls it. Third category, processors. If a sensor, or more commonly, a beacon, has extra computing power beyond what is minimally necessary to carry out its original monitoring function, it gains the potential to make changes or reconfigurations to the data it collects or receives. It may then generate further information or inference related to what is being controlled. This expanded data set may eventually enable the creation of new features. For instance, a cell phone with the geolocation or GPS function enabled can not only identify its position, but also feed many applications that will generate other features, such as finding a nearby hotel. A simpler example is that of a sensor that counts steps. It can also process other data, such as loss of calories or distance traveled. The fourth and final category, middleware and browsers. Middleware is essentially different from the previous categories. Its main function is to mix in and reconfigure the data flowing from beacons and processors, usually working with several of these devices in real time. Middleware includes platforms such as Dwight and FREEBOARD, each one operating with their own APIs on the information streams of the Internet of Things. Such services allow us to give the data new features, multiplying usage scenarios. A browser is a specific subcategory of middleware, more focused on the organization of data for human viewing or reception. An example of this type of software is the Doppel Lab project from the Media Lab at MIT, which generates 3D views and incorporates text and sounds into its final presented results in order to literally transport the viewer into a virtual environment built from the data generated by groups of various sensors. Insertion journalism. From the typology proposed, we may now generate a news production model that incorporates IoT elements into a system where the number of issuers has increased due to information flows generated by these new agents. This has been an evolutionary change from the traditional media ecosystem, which was populated primarily by official sources and large media companies. The first step in this transformation was related to the popularization of the internet, networks, and social media platforms, which many have labeled as Web 2.0. Today, we are experiencing a new leap in complexity as, in addition to the original inhabitants and the newcomers who produce content via blogs, websites, and social networks, clocks, sensors, appliances, and other connected items have also begun to add information on the system. As we have previously said, this transformation cannot be assessed solely based on this technological vector. In order to justify this model, we must also consider cultural and economic factors. Culturally, perhaps the most important fact considered is that several studies have shown that consumption of some traditional media, such as print newspapers and magazines, has been decreasing, while the use of digital media has grown. Moreover, newer generations are particularly decreasing their consumption rates for traditional information channels. Today, many are attempting to find new business models that still enable the use of traditional media products, including journalism. However, the next generation of consumers, children and teenagers who today are between the ages of 8 and 17 years old, will soon become economically active. What will the future media companies sell to these generations, and how will they do it? While the first question is relatively easy to answer, as at first the need for information consumption will not be extinguished, the second question is more difficult and poses a challenge. In the model proposed here, we must consider several key traits of the next generation of consumers. For instance, this generation's growing interest in games indicates that the gamification of the content they consume will be of critical importance. The number of hours dedicated to gaming has increased significantly in recent years, and so consuming news in the game mode may appeal to this segment. Also, to produce and share content, such gamification uses a process that Jenkins explains through the concept of participation culture. Finally, gamification and participation have led users to seek a variety of interactions, those being the interaction with other users, with technological platforms, and with the product itself. How, then, can we enrich the experience of news consumption based on the factors of gamification, participation, and interaction, in this case, the cultural vector, using the Internet of Things, the technological vector? And how do we monetize this activity? That is, how do we integrate the economic vector? News production and consumption model. In the proposed model, the old media outlets turn into interconnected platforms of people and things that exchange information in bidirectional flows wherever possible. For didactic reasons only, we designed this diagram to use a structure based on issuers and consumers of content, noting that these roles are neither fixed nor static, and that they reflect only a moment, a photograph of the current system. On the side of the issuers, which typically consist of all the traditional analog agents of news production, as well the people who today, thanks to ubiquitous technological research, create user-generated content, we add yet another layer of information generated by all the device elements of the IoT previously detailed. This layer provides greater contextualization capacity and enhanced consumption and integration of news. The proposed platform itself managed by a media company would operate via APIs, performing the following functions. Monitoring data flows, identifying topics or patterns of interest, classifying content into editorials with labels or hashtags, combining streams with common elements based on location, themes, or labels, reconfiguring content with added metadata and packaging it for distribution, multi-platform distribution of content to users using push message and direct broadcast to connected receivers. Consumers can directly receive information flows by this platform. Also offers a range of additional possibilities that will primarily affect the levels of interaction and immersion. The platform's product can be consumed via traditional TV and internet, mobile devices with augmented reality content already enabled, virtual reality devices like Cardboard or Oculus Rift, or immersive environments. This diversity offers the highest level of contact and interaction, positioning the news consumer almost literally inside various scenarios linked to the facts that he or she is receiving. Immersive journalism offers a variety of permutations for both journalist and consumer. For instance, it would be possible to see and hear different angles of a street, choosing the view angle and perspective from various sources, including multiple feeds created by other connected users transmitting through live stream applications, and the network's partner media outlets, and more, the traffic monitoring. Such an experience could be made even more realistic with the use of today's 360-degree cameras. The same scenario could be used to observe a football game, a session of Congress, the weather in a particular place, a music concert, or traffic in a large city. The application of artificial intelligence tools to usage habits, rankings, and user profiles on such platforms, gathered from the rank and profiles of users, can generate additional data, increasing the chance of making connection between a specific content within the various streams and a particular user. This would in turn increase the level of customization offered by the system and enhance the perceived value of the information experience offered. The full potential of entities and technologies that make up what we call the Internet of Things is only beginning to be explored by various sectors of human activity, including journalism. As the contemporary version of McLuhan's idea of media as extensions of man, the IoT and new projects exploring its possibilities have begun to expand or make flexible basic concepts such as presence, through the ability to deliver us information in real-time environments at distance. The four categories of the IoT we have proposed, sensors, beacons, processors, and middleware, are part of the attempt to build a basic systemic ontology that can support future research. The transposition of the receiver to the center of the information flow implies a wide range of possibilities, from traditional news narrative formats to insertion in immersive virtual environments. This flourishing of possibilities may help appeal to new generations of consumers in an attempt to address today's audience fragmentation issue. Moreover, such a range of possibilities may facilitate the search for interactions, participation, and customizations. Still, it's worth noting that as a complex system led by a dynamic of interconnection between an increasing number of factors, the diffusion scale of a given technological trend should always be represented only as a probabilistic number, a possibility within a space of available positions, the result of a mechanism where the random and uncertain are part of the equation. Thank you.